Hello, and this is Jason Pearson. Welcome to my tutorial about how to get Scala up and running with Intellij 12. First, we're going to go to jetbrains.com. Download Intellij. I'm on a Mac. You can either now that download's finished, opening in the IDE, dragging it to applications, and now I've got Intellij. So close that, eject this guy, and obviously there's some other projects I had done here before. I don't have any modules installed though. In here, for Scala. Yes, I'd like to download it. Gonna restart. If I go make a new project now, I should have a Scala module. And you type in the name of your Scala project here. You can put it wherever you want. And then it asks you for your project SDK. I'm using JDK 1.7 or Java 1.7 JDK 7, and then you can either use an existent library, which I don't have yet because I haven't either downloaded Scala or set the Scala home. You can either download Scala through Intellij, and actually it just points to the distribution at scalaline.org. 2.9.2 is kind of old. Unless you're working with a library like Kafka, you should really use Scala 2.10. So you would download it and put it somewhere, and then you just enter the path. I don't really want to do that. Normally what I do is I open up Terminal and I say brew install Scala. And if you notice, it says to use Intellij, set Scala home to this path. And I'm going to use Scala 2.10.2 because that's the latest stable version. It picks out the Scala compiler and Scala library. One thing about doing it quite that way, though, is you see if I did brew Scala, didn't install the documentation. You have to do brew install Scala with docs in order to get everything. So now I'm going to take this path and put it here and text the Scala library. I'm going to make them global, and I'm going to finish. And now I have a project. So we have this idea folder that we don't really need to pay attention to, but our source folder is where we're going to put all of our Scala code. Now, we're making a Scala object. You can choose from this menu exactly what you're going to create. doesn't really matter. It's always going to create a .scala file. So I'm going to call ours main. And if you were to write a file in the style of a main file in the style of normal Java type programming, you might see something like this. And so now we have our main, but in Scala there's this nice little app that you can extend that actually passes in main into an array of string args directly into it. So you can just run your app just like this. Now we're going to look at edit configurations, and we're going to see that a bunch of different things. The Scala console looks like the tempting thing to use, but actually it's application that you need to make. And you're going to add a specific instance of application implementation. So main is the class it auto-detects because it's compatible. If you hadn't set up your main class correctly, it would say main class is invalid, and it wouldn't let you select it. So you're going to say OK, and now we're going to say run. And compiled really quickly and said, hello world. Now, if you wanted to do something like have breakpoints, you can just select them just like that, and then say, instead of saying run main, you'd say debug, and it breaks exactly what you tell it to, and you go down here and you can either stop your process, you can manage all breakpoints and watch points, run program. You can look in the debugger and see how the main thread is working. And I'm going to go back to console and say resume program. It's going to go to the next breakpoint, resume again, and then we're done. That concludes my tutorial on getting Scala up and running with Intellij 2.1.4.